100 for 100. That's the podcast where I suggest 100 movies for all y'all out there checking out film, trying to figure out what you like and what you don't like. I took 100 of them for you, laid it all out for you, ranked them from 100 to 1, my personal opinions. And then I accompanied each with a 100-word review. We're releasing them one a day, every day, for the first 100 days of 2020. So that's what this whole thing boils down to. Today, we're talking about number 48 on this list, which some people will decry as ridiculously low, like they did with the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Number 48 on this list is Star Wars, 1977, directed by George Lucas. Star Wars. Shouldn't have a lot to say because we've all seen it. But here's a 100-word review on this. A space wizard, a dreamy farm boy, a damsel in distress, roguish pilots, menacing villains, daring escapes, space battles, laser swords. In 1977, moviegoers experienced a story unlike anything seen. From the mind of visionary George Lucas came one of the most fun adventures ever put to film. One of the finest examples of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, Star Wars homages a number of different ideals, philosophies, and religions to create a mesmerizing tale that still inspires awe more than 40 years after its release. Accompanied by the finest work composer John Williams ever created, Star Wars remains a cinematic marvel. And like I said, we've all seen Star Wars a million times, unless you're just not a Star Wars fan, in which case you're not listening to this episode, are you? It's Star Wars, man. It's so much fun. It's a fun, rousing, swashbuckling adventure is the easiest way to describe it. We don't get movies that swashbuckle like this anymore, because back in the day, that's what you had. You had your Flash Gordons, you had Star Wars, you had the Indiana Jones joints. Pirates of the Caribbean definitely swashbuckles. Adventure films, Errol Flynn's Robin Hood swashbuckles. They kind of combine the action adventure genre as one category, right? Most days, it's just straight action. Like John Wick, straight action. The Raid, straight action. Nobody really does action adventure anymore. No one goes on adventures in films these days, it seems like. I think that's something that is sorely lacking in Hollywood. Nobody goes on the Goonies swashbuckles, man, because it's a fun adventure with people getting in and out of crazy situations, the most inventive possible ways. Here we got Luke and Leia, swinging across that deep trench or whatever. Like, that's the shit you kind of want to see in a good adventure film. We don't get those anymore. You got Obi-Wan Kenobi, your old mentor, Alex Guinness, playing the old mentor role. You have Darth Vader, one of the best villains in film history. Whether you like science fiction or not, he is one of the greatest, or fantasy, depending on how you want to label Star Wars, one of the greatest villains of all time. Easily, uncontested. You can't argue that. It's fun. You got Han and Chewie there as your bits of rogues. This almost plays out kind of like a D&D game set in space with all your different characters. And you got your leaders, you got your roguish dudes, you have your comedic guys in R2 and 3PO. Even though there's nothing funny whatsoever about 3PO, he's pretty whack. But R2 is holding it down with the sass. I've always been more of a fan of R2 than 3PO. R2 is always the one that's a step ahead of everybody. He knows what's going on. It's just a shame that 3PO never believes him. Mark Hamill, I think, shoulders the emotional weight as the dreamy farm boy who just wants to get away until he does get away and he gets swept in way over his head. Carrie Fisher starts out as a damsel in distress, but the minute she breaks out of that cell, she is in full command of the party. Somebody's got to save our skins. Into the garbage chute, flyboy. Get this walking carpet out of my way. All of that good stuff it's Carrie Fisher doing what Carrie Fisher does best. Get work done. That's what she does. And from that moment, from seeing Carrie Fisher for the first time, is when I fell in love with brunettes. There is nothing. I can't say Star Wars is flawless. Many people pointed out the flaws. Shout out to the stormtrooper banging his head on the ceiling. But it's all part of the charm of the film. I refuse to watch this movie on Blu-ray because the graininess of the 1977 film is part of the charm of this movie. The effects don't need to be digital. Practical effects are what's part of the charm of this. Like somebody built that shit with their hands. We need to get back to all that. Thankfully, they did with the newer elements. They had a lot more practicality to them. But yes, check out or revisit number 1977, number 48 on this list of 100 400, George Lucas's The Star Wars.